folks. Welcome to Monday night live Q&A, where we answer all of your questions about drones and pretty much anything you want to have answers to. If you've never been to one of those, it goes pretty quickly. We take questions in the chat. Jason is all the way back there and taking all these questions, putting them in the chat, and then I'll be answering them as we go. So I see there's already a couple. Before we do that, I want to say hi to the folks that are here. Thorl Inspired, as always, here in the chat. Yellow Rose Drones, what's going on? Trini Travelers, Curtis Warren, also here quite a bit. We have Richard Hooker. We have Texas Drone Company. That's Jared. Welcome, welcome. Travis Cheney is here. Jillian, our own Jillian from the community. She updated her name. Look at that. It says from the community now. Terry Dugas. We have Juan Torres. Julio Pera, Dean Schaefer, drone YouTuber, that's a funny one. Kay Baxter, Julio Pera again. Who else? Bud Bieber. We have Gina Mary Photography here every week as well. James Van Boeven. What's up, James? Moonlight. A lot of other people. Whew. Who else? Moonlight, Reginald, Cloud Camper. Anyways. Thanks, folks, for joining. We have a lot of questions, as I see popping out. So if you have any questions about drone, this is what we do every Monday. And we're going to go for the whole hour. Congratulations to the winner of our trophy for the first photo contest. We have more information. I think Jillian is going to put more information in the comments here. We just talked about it today. We're going to be doing the June version of the photo contest. You can get to win the trophy, the beautiful glass trophy. Unfortunately, I was going to show it to you, but we had a bit of an incident. It's no longer one trophy. It's a trophy and a half and a few other pieces. We talked about a couple of weeks ago how strong the trophy was, but it's still made of glass, which is beautiful.
It's still two basic pieces.
Yeah, it's mostly two pieces. So, yeah, it's one piece now right here, beautiful shield, and then and the rest of it. But there's some shavings that are missing in between. Something like that. So you'd get a full trophy if you win. Be careful with it. It is, I guess, somewhat fragile. Doesn't look like it, but so now it is truly a weapon of
Frisbee golf with that?
Frisbee golf, yeah. Throw it in the office when people are not paying attention. So yeah, that's that. So you can get your trophy with your own name in one piece if you win, and then $250 as well for a gift card. So the winner, the picture, I don't think do we have the picture? I don't think we have it queued up. But we'll get it. We'll show it towards the end. The winner of the competition, the picture. We'll show it at the end of the show. It's a beautiful picture of a lightning taken from the drone at the right time, which is really cool. Okay, should we get started with questions, I guess? I see Vic is here, Vic Moss Photography, joining us. Welcome on board. Jason Williams is here. Lunch is here, a little late. Inside joke. Oh, by the way, if you're the one who sent us crumble and didn't say who you were, thank you. We got a box of crumble on Thursday? No.
Last week?
Wednesday of last week?
Yeah, so.
Wednesday of last week. And we don't know who sent it. So if it's you, thank you. If you wanted to stay anonymous, thank you. We appreciate it.
It was delicious.
It was delicious. It didn't last very long. But yeah, we got... Jared says you're welcome. He's the first one to claim it, so... All right. Travis says, would you ever invite a member of Congress out to Pilot Institute to show the drones being used to make them more informed before introducing drone bans? Yeah, absolutely. The downside is I doubt that any of the people introducing these bills care one bit about drones. Drones just happens to be what's in question here because of the relationship that they have with a certain company, and it could have been a refrigerator, it could have been a microwave, it could have been really anything. They would have still tried to get it banned because, well, they're getting, you know, a little push from these companies. But that's really the main motivation. I think the drone has absolutely nothing to do with it. They're just interested in pleasing the people that probably grease their pockets. So yeah. So yes, I would absolutely welcome them if they had a true interest in knowing what drones do. I would love to educate them, put them behind FPV goggles, and show them what drones can actually do. K Baxter says, new flyer, first two times had a helicopter. Oh, first two time I flew had a helicopter circle me, was not breaking any rules. Why would they do that? In private airport 8 miles away, but I wasn't in their controlled airspace. Opinion. Maybe that's just the mission that they had at the moment, which happened to be near where you were. I doubt that they were targeting you. I think helicopter pilots, if they see drone, they're not going to try to get closer. They're just going to try to get further away. But that's just my opinion. I think it just happened. In the newest mapping video, what controller was he using that accepts third-party apps? I don't know if you want to answer that, Jared, but I'm going to answer for him for now. But he used the DJI, the Pro controller, the RC Pro, sorry. And that's the Pro version is the one that you can install different things on. And I know some of you mentioned that, yes, if you want to do this, you have to get the more expensive controller, $1,200 or whatever. But you don't really have to. The RCN2, the traditional controller, you can use that and plug in your phone. I think we also mentioned that in the video as well, where you can just plug in an Android phone and be able to recognize the drone. You can also do it without a software. Now, we mentioned in the video as well, it's not as easy to do this. You can do your own manual overlap and then still get the footage and get it processed the way that we show you in the video. The capture portion is easier if you have automation, but it doesn't have to be done with automation. Obviously, as you go bigger and you start to get paid for it, you want to invest in that. $1,200 isn't going to break the bank because you'll have a customer that's going to pay you for the services and allow you to basically make more money as you go. So this was just an example to show you how to get started with mapping. And there's a lot of ways to do it, but we wanted to show you an easy way with more than likely the stuff that you already had on hand available to you to go and fly. So if you think that you need another controller, you don't. If you think that you need even an Android phone because you have an iPhone, you don't. You can actually hand fly it and still do a good job at it. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to have way more overlap than you need, or maybe not enough overlap in certain areas, but after practicing a couple times, you should be able to do it. This is to get your feet wet. This is not a solution to charge customers, okay? Maybe we should have been more clear about this, but in this stage, you know, that's how you would do it. Okay. Next thing is, let me see. Yeah, DJ Delamora. If you have Part 107, do you still have to keep the trust documentation on you while flying? No. Well, depends. It depends on which rules you decide to follow when you fly your drone. So you can fly your drone, if you're certified under Part 107, you can still decide to fly under recreational rules. You decide that before you fly it. So if that's the case, if you're flying recreationally, then you would need to have trust done. If you fly always under Part 107, then you don't ever need to do trust. So it depends on the rules that you follow. That's the bottom line. Drone YouTuber says, just received DJI prop guards for the Mini 3 Pro so I can fly over people. Do these prop guards cancel out the obstacle avoidance feature on the drone? Yes, they do. Also remember, I want to make sure that there's no confusion here. Buying the prop guards doesn't mean that you can fly over people automatically. You still need to apply for the waiver, and you still need to get approved by the FAA before you do that, okay? Don't miss that step. I know I repeated it several times in the video that we made because I wanted to make sure people understood that they still need to get a waiver. Getting the prop guards does not qualify immediately for flying over people. But yes, it does cancel obstacle avoidance, which is fine. You can still fly drones without obstacle avoidance. As a matter of fact, most of the time that I fly the drone, I just turn off obstacle avoidance because I find it pretty annoying. Lunch says, as a retired airline pilot, do you think it's worth taking the course before taking the 107 test? I've watched a bunch of videos, yours and others, and taken a few practice tests, which I've passed. If you're comfortable with your knowledge, probably no reason to do that. The thing is that I tell Part 61 pilots that are already licensed or maybe are retired, is airspace is going to be a little bit different, especially as an airline pilot. You probably haven't seen or talked much about Class Echo airspace and Delta and all these things because you've been flying IFR for so long. And then the regulation, you need to be sharp on the regulation. The weather, ADM, and all these other things, performance and limitation, those are things that you probably understand very well as a pilot already. The tricky part is going to be the regulation and the charts, and that's really it. So as long as you're comfortable with that, then there should be no issues. In your opinion, that's Z-Man, in your opinion, how likely will the ban on DJI drone pass the House and Congress? So here's my prediction, and this is just me. This is just without much additional information, but it will likely pass the House because we were talking about this in the office the other day. The House is more like junior league for lawmakers. Congress is a little bit different. Is it going to pass Congress? I highly doubt. It's poorly written. The bill is poorly written. It's way too encompassing. And so I doubt that it's going to make it any much further than that. It's also an election year. And for now, there's going to be a long break between now where everybody is going on break because, you know, these people work so hard all year at helping us create these amazing regulations. And obviously I'm being sarcastic, but they need that big break, that big summer break. They need that to refresh. And so they're going to be gone for a while. And when they come back, they're going to be very focused on the November election. So I don't see a whole lot getting done between now and the election. And then after the election, obviously things can change dramatically depending on what happens with the election, obviously. So, but yeah, I think it's going to pass the House. I think it's going to get killed in Congress, but we'll see. Hopefully I'm right. Moonlight says, is there a way I can look into a roof and see past the roof shingles to see the condition of the roof support beams? No. I want to produce, I hope, beautiful viewers. So, no, what you're asking is basically looking through how can I say that? The sensors that you have on the drone are going to be either an RGB sensor or a traditional sensor that captures images like your camera on your phone does, or it's going to be a thermal camera, which is going to look at heat, at cold and hot at different temperatures. It doesn't have the ability to see through an object. That's not something that we have available in commercial drones, okay? So no, not something that you'll be able to do. Richard Hooker says, question, if the United States banned DJI drones or drone manufactured outside the US, how would they enforce the ban with so many users? Would they have to track down each user or what? So the way that they would do it is at the import level. So the drone resellers would not be able to import drones and get them into your hands. So obviously if you bought a drone outside of the US, you would still be able to bring it here and fly it technically. It would not have an FCC approval, so technically you could get in trouble with the FAA with the FCC, for operating a device that's not FCC approved. This is the way that Stefanik, by the way, is trying to get into this with the NDAA, which is by, not the NDAA, her stupid drone ban that the first one that she's trying to put in. Sorry, I had a long day. She is trying, DFR? No, DFR is the new one. She's trying to get an FCC ban, which would basically ban potentially older drones and revoke FCC approval from all drones and ban any new FCC approval from new drones, which means that because the drone wouldn't be FCC approved, you wouldn't be able to use it in the airwaves in the United States. It would be illegal. So you would put yourself at risk of getting a fine from the FCC if they caught you doing that. So, yeah, that's the trick. Do you know? Okay, the Muffin Man, Coach Wade Olson says, do you know where to go to get the necessary documents, training, and certification for me as an American to fly a drone in Italy? Yes, you have to go on the EASA website. EASA is the FAA equivalent, and then you have to do that on the country that you're going to be visiting in Europe. Italy, from what I've been told, I haven't flown there, but from what I've been told, the data is hidden behind a paywall to get all the information that you need to be able to fly there legally, which I think is a terrible idea. But so you'll have to do a bit more research. Unfortunately, not my area of expertise, but yeah, you'll have to do that. NP says, what drone system would you recommend for professional mapping, construction, progress in an area where there is often rain for weeks at a time and no good dry window to use a system like the FreeFly Air Astro? Sorry, I'm having issues talking tonight. What would I recommend? You need something that's waterproof. I don't think, is the 3 Enterprise waterproof?
Let me look it up. It's got to be IP something.
It's got to be IP something, but if it rains for weeks, so here's the kicker though. Here's the kicker. If it rains for weeks, chances are the visibility isn't going to be great. So you still need to meet the requirement for visibility, which is 3 statute miles under Part 107. So that might be difficult even with rain. And of course, flying in the rain and taking pictures means that even if you keep the camera all the way down, chances are you can still get probably pretty wet on the camera. So I don't know where you live, but if it rains for weeks at a time, what, the Pacific Northwest maybe? That sucks. But you got to think about the quality of the images that you would take with a wet drone. And then, of course, like I said, the visibility requirement needs to be there as well. The DJI Enterprise drone, the Matrice 30, Matrice 300, all of those are able to fly in the element. You have the Matrice 30 is not a mapping drone. The 300 can definitely be equipped with the proper equipment. I don't know if the L1 is fully waterproof. That would be one of the lenses that you can get. I don't know, maybe, yeah, it says the Pacific Northwest, the wet side. Maybe Jared, if he's still in the comments, maybe Jared can help with that information. But, yeah, that's a tough one. If you send me an email, send us an email at contact@pilotinstitute.com. We'll find you more information on that. Yeah, Jared says you can buy the Matrice 3D standalone. It's waterproof. So the 3D is the version that goes into the dock, into the DJI dock. That's an interesting one. Yeah, the Matrice 30 would definitely do that, but it's not a mapping drone. Yeah, the 300 definitely is, but I don't know if the payload in itself would be waterproof. I don't know, Jared, if you know if the P1 is waterproof or not. Not a payload that I use a whole lot, so I don't remember all the specs. I don't remember all the specs on all the drones anyway, because my brain is not big enough for that. Black Elixir says, is using the goggles with the Mavic 3 Pro a good idea? It's not a bad idea. I guess it depends on what you're trying to do. Yeah. I don't know that it's, I mean, the immersion is okay with it. It's not like flying an FPV drone, so you just have to remember, as soon as you put the goggles on, you need to have a visual observer. So it may not be worth it. It's not a bad idea. I don't know if it's a good idea, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. I wouldn't risk the P1 in a wet environment. That's what Jared says. But I have flown the M3E in plenty of moist environment without problems. There you go. Thorough Inspired says, can any age get the trust certificate? Yes, there is no age limit for the trust certificate. once you get, there's an age limit for the registration of the drone, which is 13. Once you get a waiver for over people, is it once and done, or get one every time you fly over people? It's once and done for a few years. Let's put it this way. So you still have to get it renewed over time, but you can fly, not location specific. Anonymous, twice. Is it legal to fly a drone adjacent to people using the Avata 1 or Avata 2 or mini series with prop guards? Adjacent to people, you can fly any drone anytime. You can't fly over people. So the over part is very simple. Any part of the drone over any part of the human body. That's the definition of over. Now, if you fly close to them, keep in mind that there is this thing called forward movement, energy, as you fly the drone. If you lose the motors right here and you were moving forward, that forward velocity is going to keep on going and then eventually come down and potentially hit someone even if you were not over them at the time of the flight. So keep that in mind. This is cool. I want to keep this as a...
teaching tool? Oh, wow. That's not a teaching tool.
That's when the politicians come and visit. What's the most expensive drone you've ever flown? What's the most expensive drone we've ever flown? Octozilla. It's an internal joke.
I3 has to be.
The i3,
Yeah. Right?
the Inspired 3. What was the Inspired flight that we got with the? Well, we didn't know. Probably the i3,
Wait,
Inspired 3.
how much was that transformer looking one?
Oh, did you fly that, the LiDAR one?
The LiDAR. Yeah, well, with the payload. What was it? Jason would know.
Dragonfish Pro.
Oh, the Dragonfish in Texas. That's right. Yeah, we did fly the Dragonfish in Texas. Yeah, Dragonfish for sure. 120 some thousand, I think, as configured. That's true. Definitely that. Why do prop guards cancel out obstacle avoidance? More than likely because of the way the prop guards are designed to mount onto the drone. They actually mount on top of the obstacle sensors, or if they don't, they get in the way of the obstacle avoidance sensor, so it would block some of the information. Drone YouTuber says, once you apply for and are approved to fly over people, how long is it good for? Well, I think I've just answered that question 2 in a row. The first time through Drone Zone, there was a change in the status of the request for authorization of restricted airspace. At all times, I remain in a submitted state. Okay, I think I know why. Request for authorization, okay. Before, it only took a week for at most 1 or 2 weeks. In the most recent step, it was subjected for almost a month. Does that have to do with what brand is DJI? No, it has nothing to do with the brand of the aircraft. I have remote ID registered and up to date. It depends on the airport. So what happens with these requests is they go through ATC. If ATC doesn't see them, ATC, air traffic control, if air traffic control doesn't see them, then they end up not being processed. So that could be the problem. I would say resubmit it. That seems like a long time, 1 to 2 weeks. And yeah, that seems like a lot. That seems like a lot. But the DJI drone has nothing to do with it. The FAA doesn't care what you fly. All they want to know is how safely you fly. The anti-DJI thing is completely outside of aviation. And when I say that, outside the FAA and the government, it's representatives that have no idea what aviation is. So, Bruce says, I did my first LAANC and DJI unlock over the weekend. It all went smoothly. My question is, does ATC of the nearby airport get any notification of the active LAANC approval in their airspace? They do, but they don't really use it for much of anything unless it's a very specific approval, very like at where you fly over the grid. But otherwise, well, so okay, let me rephrase that. ATC does not get notifications of LAANC approval that are below the grid because that gets done automatically. And that airspace has already been reserved, if you want, for that kind of operation. If they wanted to look them up, I think they could, but they don't get notifications, over time. But if you have If you fly in a grid above the grid number, then they would get notification that it's been approved and that you're supposed to be there, because in theory you're not supposed to be there. That's why those grid numbers are there. They basically tell the FAA, hey, all this airspace here is okay to use for drones. We don't need to get notified on that. If they want to fly over that, then we need to know, because we have other aircraft that we're in charge of that are going to be sharing the airspace with them right there. So that's the bottom line. Any idea why my video are not being saved to my Mavic 3 thermal? Did you check to make sure that it's not being saved to the internal drive? That's happened before. So that's the first thing I would check, is where are the videos being saved? More than likely they're going into the internal drive of the drone. I live next to an airport, and the max altitude I can fly is 50 feet, and the lowest altitude I can set the RTH is 65 feet. Is it okay to still use the feature, or should I disable it? I'm going to say it depends. If you set it to 65, is it going to be safe to bring the drone back to you? If you only have 50-foot approval, personally, I would set the drone to probably hover if you lose the signal. And then go and find it. You really want to make sure that you don't go over that number. My guess is that at 65 feet, it doesn't do you much good to have RTH, even at 50 feet, because there might be other, well, may not be other obstacles near you that are that high, but just keep line of sight in that case. You're so close to the airport, you really, really, really want to make sure. And if something happens and you lose connectivity, just have the drone hover, and then as the behavior, and then either try to regain connection or wait until the battery goes down, and then it's going to eventually land right there, and then you can go get it. That would be my recommendation. When is your next trip to Burnet, Texas? Burnet would be March of next year. The trip was already there. Unfortunately, fortunately I couldn't make the trip, but yeah. Avata 2 needs a parachute for OOP. Yes. No, Avata 2 doesn't, because it's under 400 grams with the prop guards, but you still need a waiver. It doesn't mean you can just fly over people. With all the new rules and regulation, I haven't flown in over 5 years. What do I need to do to start flying again for flying recreational? I would say go to our free course called Recreational Flying Made Easy. That's exactly why we did it. Go and do the trust test that was in there 5 years ago. That's going to give you some great information. Recreational Flying Made Easy is the course that we built to make it simple for people to get more information than what's in the trust. Trust is good. It's pretty short. If you want more detail, that course is there and it's free. Okay, Glenn Baker says, are you guys coming to Flight Fest 2024 in Ohio? We are going to skip this year for Flight Fest, but we'll go back next year. So there's a lot going on right now here at Pilot Institute. And this year we decided that we were going to slow down on the travel because we're moving to a new building, and we knew we were going to be hopefully moving to a new building early on in the year. We knew early on in the year that we were going to be moving into a new building by the end of the year because our lease is up here in November. So we decided to do a minimal travel this year. We're only going to like 4 or 5 different places, actually maybe only 4 different places this year. And then next year we'll be doing more. So Flight Fest will likely be every 2 years. We'll be going over there, and then we'll be putting other events during the year off so that we can cover more places. It gets difficult to travel, quite frankly, with so many people, with bringing the whole team and bringing everything. It's a lot of logistics. It's a lot of driving because we always have to drive to get there. So it gets difficult. So we're going to reevaluate a little bit of this. There's a lot of different reasons why we're doing this, but we do love Flight Fest. We're going to keep pushing it even this year if we don't go, but we'll be going next year and having a presence. I'm an FPV pilot and looking to shoot videos with my school this upcoming year. Would it be a bad idea to buy the Avata 2 with all these anti-Chinese drone bans possibly coming? I would say get it now. I don't think the ban is going to happen, but get the drone now and just enjoy it. If that's the tool that you need to do what you got to do, just make it happen. James says Lyndon Long noted a couple weeks ago that the Eastern and Western Service Centers were taking a month to process authorization, and the Central Processing Center was 2 weeks. So somebody's sort of doing something better than the others. Thank you for that, James. I did not see that note. What kind of light for the night flying do you recommend? We recommend the ARC 5, which is the brightest. We've tried it over and over again. And who makes the ARC 5?
The light, Firehouse.
Firehouse, thank you. Any lights from Firehouse is going to be a good light. So we recommend them. They're based in the US. They support public safety agencies a lot. So we always send people their way because they're doing it the right way. John Quist says, I want to do a school bus training video overhead at 75 feet in Luke Air Force Base 100. Okay, it's on the edge of the 150. I applied for a waiver. I think I will get an approval. I'm guessing you want to fly over moving vehicles. Is that what you're saying? Is that what the waiver is for? I'm guessing that's what the waiver is for. If it was to fly there, you don't need a waiver, but or an approval. Well, you need approval, but you don't need a waiver. As long as you're flying below the grid and you have a safety system in place, I'm guessing this is on a closed course, in which case it should be fairly easy to get approval. Now, also keep in mind, you can do a lot of flying almost over moving vehicles and still make it look like you're flying over moving vehicles. A very easy tip is to bring the camera up by a couple degrees and being slightly behind the moving vehicle. And then you're doing it without a waiver and still legally, or doing it to the side. Sometimes people think being right on top of the subject is the best, but it actually not always is the case. So Black Elixir says, I'm still studying for my Part 107 with PI, awesome, but I'm under the recreational pilot status. If I post on YouTube some of my videos, is that okay? As long as the intent is to fly for recreational purposes, then you're fine, as long as your YouTube channel is not monetized. If I get the Part 107, can I fly anywhere in New York City? No, you cannot. New York City has additional restrictions that are based on the city in itself. So to fly New York City is very, very difficult other than flying in the few parks that are approved. Make sure you do research. You will get arrested and you'll get in trouble. So don't fly in New York City without proper approval. How far can I fly away with visual observer along the way? Good question, Chris. One that comes up a lot. You can fly as far as you can see the drone. So it's called visual line of sight. Within visual line of sight, your visual observer does not extend how far you can fly the drone. At all times, both you and your visual observer need to be able to see the drone. Both of you need to be able to see the drone. So you cannot have a visual observer station miles away in what we call daisy chain visual observers. It just doesn't work that way. Now, if you're flying under Part 107, you can get waivers to fly beyond visual line of sight, although they're still pretty difficult to get. Chris says, is it me or are many of the FAA rules for where you can fly wishy-washy? Not really. Since Before You Fly went away, I find all the other apps are non-committal when LAANC isn't required but have warnings. So since Before You Fly went away, we made a replacement, or I should say Aloft made a replacement with us in partnership called Aloft Air Aware. So make sure to go and download Air Aware. It's basically Before You Fly, but with more features. So that's one thing you can do. ADS, Aerial Drone Services, says, is it possible to use your course for our high school drone club? You can. Please send us an email. We'll tell you how you can do that. But we don't allow our courses to be used with groups. But we can definitely help you with some creative things. Thorold Inspired says, my 7-year-old and 9-year-old have their own little drones. I have my 107. Can they fly at a park if I'm with them without the trust certificate? yes, you can. So, in theory, so let me try to phrase this as simple as I can. You could fly recreationally with both of them and supervise them as they fly, and then there's no real limit as to how many people you supervise. Now, what I would recommend that you do is that you do trust with both of them as an educational piece. Then they have their name on it, then there's no question from anyone about how to do it. You could supervise people, although the FAA doesn't really have language like this under recreational rules to supervise someone. But if you had the trust, you'd be flying the drone. Now, if you fly two drones at the same time, it becomes more complicated because you'd be PIC. Well, I don't think anybody would care. Let's put it this way, because you're trying to do it the right way. I would do it as an educational piece with both of them. Now, if you decide to do this under Part 107, then you can only supervise one person at a time as they're flying, but you don't need to do that. There's no need to use Part 107 rules in this scenario. I would basically just fly with them recreationally, get both of them their own trust certificate, and then you're good to go. Chris says, wait, we can't cross over moving vehicles. Can we cross a freeway? The answer is no to both of those. You can cross a freeway as long as it's it doesn't have moving vehicles on it, but you cannot fly over moving vehicles ever, unless you have a Part 107 certificate and a waiver to do that. And recreationally, you can never fly over moving vehicles or people. Ethan?
What if there's traffic? What if they're not moving?
If they're not moving, it's fine. If they're not moving, it's fine. But if they're moving, it's people in moving vehicles. That's how the rule is written. Is there a recommended software for making maps with the DJI Mavic 3 since there is no RDK, regular Mavic 3 with dual camera? Recommended software? No, because there's no SDK, like you said. Now, some software is able now to kind of control the drone and using, well, no, I'm not going to go there, but not for flying, basically. So no, not with the Mavic 3. You need to manually fly, and then you need to use a mapping software to process the data, but not to manually fly. Let's put it this way. Can I use a telescope to extend visual line of sight? No, you cannot. Unaided vision, that is unaided. So Chris, very simple. Keep the drone within visual line of sight so you have the ability to see around you and see other aircraft that might be in the area. That's the bottom line, okay? And then you'll be flying safely. Don't fly over people, don't fly over a moving vehicle, don't fly further than you can see. Always keep an eye on your drone. Get airspace approval where you need to. That's really basically the 4 rules. And then everything else is common sense, okay? Number 6 says, thanks for the chat. I may have missed it, but where are we in regards to remote ID? Are all issues all resolved? Oh, no, not all issues are all resolved. Remote ID is doing its thing. I think it's kind of one of these topics that has somewhat died down. Some people don't comply. Some people comply because they have the equipment on their drone. And I think that's just the way things are going to be. And I don't know what else to say. There's still a privacy issue in my eyes with sending potentially robbers to where the drone is located and going directly to where the drone is going to land and waiting for the drone to come down. But nothing that we can solve here in this chat. So, and nothing that's going to be changed on the horizon. Although there is a, so the FAA, I don't know if I want to go down the rabbit hole, but I'll go anyway. The FAA has an FAA Reauthorization Act that was just passed. And I promised a video, and I'll be working on it, but I've been so swamped lately, I just can't get into reading all 1,000 pages of that document. There is language in there. One of the sections calls on the FAA to create alternative means of compliance for remote ID. It doesn't mean what you think it might mean. What it means is that we are likely going to see methods such as network remote ID to comply with remote ID. I've not been a fan of network remote ID since it came out in the original Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, NPRM, for remote ID back in 2019, I think it was, because it was one of the methods that was going to be mandated as being used for you and I and other people who fly, which I think was overkill. And I still think it's overkill for most operation. But for some operation, complying with remote ID with network remote ID is okay, as long as it doesn't get pushed to everyone and anyone on their drone. Okay, so I want to continue having the ability to fly the drone with standard remote ID, if you want to call it that. Network would involve a network. It would involve a cell phone connection to send that signal to a cell phone connection to come back down to someone that would centralize the data. In concept, it works well for complex operation. Make drone delivery require network remote ID because, well, one, they can afford it, and two, it's the kind of flight that would need to have this kind of technology. So that's all I'm going to say about this, but if you see people talking about alternate means of compliance for remote ID in the Reauthorization Act, that's what really it's all about. It's about network remote ID coming down the line eventually. Whew. If you fly in New York, they will knock on your door for real? Yeah, probably. I mean, do you remember what happened in New York in early 2000, right? That's the reason why New York is on edge with anything that flies in that city. So flying a drone in New York is not a good idea, and they have a lot of technology available to find out pretty much exactly where you are. So don't do it. Don't be that guy. I don't want to be talking about you on News Update because somebody did something stupid, okay? I'm going to Portugal at the end of the month, and I plan on bringing my Mini 3 Pro. I have operator registration and A1, A3 certificate. Any tips for flying abroad? Know the rules, where you're going to fly, and then read the room. Wherever you're going to fly, make sure that you're not disturbing people. That's really the bottom line. Otherwise, it should be fun. I flew in France 2 years ago when I went on a trip. It was fun. It was good to fly in a different country. Bodhi says, is a Mini 4 Pro sufficient to slowly break into a business? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great starter drone if you want to kind of get your feet wet, see what's going on. I think the quality is still plenty good to get started, and then go from there. What is the process in becoming a UAS training instructor? There's no process. The FAA doesn't have really any documentation. That's why you see a lot of people calling themselves instructors. It's not an official FAA title. The only official FAA title is a Part 61 flight instructor, which takes becoming a commercial pilot, 250 hours, and then many hours of studying on the ground and taking tests before you can become an FAA flight instructor. So I have a bit of a hard time being a flight instructor myself, having people call themselves UAS instructors. It's not a title. It's not an FAA title. Don't make it look like it's an FAA title. It's not. And unless you've taken at least the fundamental of instructing, you shouldn't be teaching anything related to aviation to anyone. I know it sounds like I'm on a soapbox, but I've been doing this for a very long time, and at least the fundamental of instructing helps you teach an aviation topic, organize a topic correctly before you can teach it. Unless you have a teacher certification that helps you with doing this from non-aviation, please educate yourself on how to do this. And I'm not saying this for the person asking the question, but there's no requirement to become a training instructor, which I think is a shame. I thought you were able to traverse from point A to point B of a vehicle as long as you only pass on a constant flight. That's a common misconception. That's if you have a categorized drone, which there are almost none available. People always forget that. People always forget the tiny little requirement in regulation, like, oh, now I can fly over people because, I saw a headline somewhere, but there's always more than that. There's always that requirement. Anytime you talk about OOP, operation over people, or OOMV, operation over moving vehicle, you need to have a categorized drone. That's the requirement number one. And there is almost no categorized drones. So, yep. DJI Avata 2 deep dive coming soon. Yeah, we never did that.
We haven't filmed it yet.
Oh crap. Yeah, that. Well, we traveled to Sun and Fun right when the Avata came out, and we rushed. Holy crap, we rushed to get those videos out and
Yeah,
done. And then we came back and we got busy. And then we came back and we got the new building.
Well, we have a new LiDAR course out.
Yeah, so yeah, we have a new course. We have LiDAR course. We have a search and rescue course that's going to be coming out probably this week or next week. This week. And then we have a radio communication course for airplane that's coming out as well. So yeah, we've been busy. But yeah, thanks for the reminder. We'll get working on that. Why is there little looking eyes on every single one of these questions in the chat? Oh, it's for you. Okay. How far does remote ID work? Depends on the remote ID technology. I can only see my drone if it's right next to me or above me. Yeah, there are limitations on the receiver, aka your phone that you're using, and then the technology on your drone in itself. So we've seen some as good as several miles, and we've seen some as bad as like after 300 feet, it's gone. So Michaela Ellington says, have you ever heard of GLIME? Yeah. How many practice tests do I have to pass before I take my aviation certification exam? That's a loaded question. I'm going to get on soapbox again. GLIME is a test prep. It's a database of questions that are going to help you find out if you have the knowledge. It's not a teaching tool. It's an evaluation tool. It finds out if you're ready. So it's not about the number of practice tests. It's about learning all the knowledge and then taking a practice test. And if you do well in practice test, then you can go. Now, I'm going to warn you on GLIME. I don't know if you're here for the drone stuff or if you're here for airplane stuff. GLIME has made a reputation for the airplane stuff. On the drone side of things, I get questions every week from their database of questions that have nothing to do with the drone exam because they're copy-pasting questions from the airplane database, which don't apply. They're not drone experts, okay? They're not drone experts. So find a different database. I'm not going to push our course, but our course has a full section with practice exams that I know work because we've tested them over 100,000 people that we've trained now for the exam. So yeah, that's my answer. I'm sticking to it. Cloud Camper says, is there any worries with my drone going through airport x-ray? Nope, shouldn't be any problem. Is OpenSky a good choice to check different countries' laws? For flying drone, do you know the app? I do not know the app. Here's my experience with country and country laws for drones. There's a lot of places that try to have articles that talk to you about what does it take to fly in this country? And half of it is incorrect because it's never been updated. It was a good idea at first, and then nobody kept it up to date. So it becomes a source of false information. If you fly somewhere, go to that country's regulation or website for the equivalent of the FAA, and then find the information there. That's what I would do. Thomas says something that hasn't really made any sense. If a pilot already has Part 107, then why force them to get trust certificate? There's no forcing of that. Isn't trust just a stripped version of Part 107? No, it's even worse than that. Completely different things. You do not need trust if you are flying under Part 107 rules. Only if you fly under recreational rules, then you need to have trust. It's a regulatory requirement. Should your Part 107 certificate act as a waiver for having trust? Probably, but the rules are different. The rules under Part 107 and under recreational are different. So trust is an attempt at educating the majority of people on the very basic rules to fly a drone. It's like the bare minimum that you should know to be going out there and flying. So it's not a bad thing, and it's free. So yeah, but it's not being forced on anyone unless you fly recreationally. iCrazy says, I just got Part 107 license. Is there a job board for pilot out there in the States? There are several of them. I would warn that not all jobs on there are worth it. A lot of them are a race to the bottom, meaning that they're going to take advantage of young pilots and fresh pilots. So they're good to get started, to get experience, and then after that, moving on to bigger and better. Does being a private pilot or commercial pilot allow you to fly a drone any differently or any further? No, it doesn't. If we maintain VLOS, how does Amazon deliver? If you're already a private pilot or a commercial pilot, it doesn't give you any more privileges. And how does Amazon deliver? Well, Amazon doesn't deliver because they fired most of the people that fly in that program, but that's beside the point. They have waivers. So there are waivers available to fly for drone delivery companies. Amazon is always used as an example, but it's by far the worst drone delivery operation out there. There's a lot of way more successful ones that are doing this with waivers and legally. And but even then, they still have to, for most of them, they still have to have somebody follow the drone as a visual observer. So we have a beyond visual line of sight waiver, which allows me as the pilot to fly beyond my visual line of sight, but we have to have a visual observer that goes and follows the drone as it's flying. So it's BV loss for me, but it's not truly BV loss. Somebody has line of sight.
Amazon also has a Part 135.
Amazon also has a Part 135 because of drone delivery, but that's not BV loss, that's delivery. So Part 135 certification allows companies to use drones to deliver packages beyond visual line of sight. If you want to deliver packages across the street to someone, you can do that under Part 107, as long as you stay within visual line of sight. As soon as you go beyond visual line of sight, then you have to do that. Rabbi says, can we teach kids safety with Part 107 certification in schools, and what are the conditions? Yeah, you can, absolutely. We actually work with a ton of schools to provide Part 107, and the conditions are that the kids need to be at least 16 years old to take the test. So you can start at 14. They can take the test before they're 14, but to apply for before they're 16, between 14 and 16, but they need to be at least 16 to apply for the certificate. As a recreational drone pilot, if law enforcement asks you for assistance, may you legally do so? No, you cannot, and it's very unlikely that law enforcement would do that. If it's a life and death situation, I would consider it, but again, it's very unlikely that law enforcement would do that. They would put themselves through a lot of liability by doing that, and I don't see a situation where law enforcement would want to do that. But those type of operations need Part 107, and obviously you would need approval from that department to fly for them, which would need more than likely additional training. Police departments have a lot of these positions where you have to be a sworn officer in order to do this. They don't just let anybody and everybody get into a mission, let's put it this way, which makes sense, which is good. Sparky says, is the DJI Inspire 3 waterproof? Him and I talked about this today. Apparently it's not. He got an $8,000 bill from DJI to fix his non-waterproof DJI Inspire 3, and they ended up sending him a new one. So Sparky does a lot of really cool videos for a lot of really cool companies. Next level kind of production, video production. If you see Netflix stuff, he's at the Netflix level. He's not at the regional, local news TV level. He's way up there. So Sparky's a cool kid. Do I need my Part 107 if I use my Avata 2 as an safety inspection? Yes, you do, before I go in confined space. In confined space for my job. Okay, so confined space. If you use the drone outside for any kind of safety inspection, it's no longer recreational. It needs Part 107. If you fly the drone indoors, then that's different. Indoors, the FAA doesn't care, so you wouldn't need Part 107. If you use it outside, then yes. Jason says, is can. Can you post, huh? If. Oh, no.
Nope.
That doesn't work either. I think it's just can. Can you post drone videos without Part 107 if you are doing it for fun? Yes, you can, absolutely. Carl's.
There's a good video for that too, that we made.
Yeah, we actually have a ton of videos on that topic, yes. Regarding traveling via plane with your drone because of the lithium battery, do you check in or carry it with you on board? You carry it with you, always. You cannot put lithium battery in the baggage compartment. Black Elixir says, last question, as a recreational pilot right now, can I fly at night if my UAS has the proper lights? I have a Mavic 3 Pro. Yeah, you can fly recreationally at night, even in controlled airspace. You need a light visible from 3 statute miles. The lights on your drone are not visible from 3 statute miles, so you would need to get a special light. We've talked about these lights early on. Go to the... why can I never remember the name of that company
Sorry.
that makes the lights?
Firehouse.
Firehouse. Jeez. Whew. Okay. I don't know why. And I talk to Scott all the time. Scott, I'm sorry if you're watching. When realtors are using drones to make videos that are in known restricted airspace, should I report it? It's common in my area. Realtors should definitely not be doing that. Personally, I would only report people if they are flying unsafely. If they're in restricted airspace, there's probably many aircraft flying over there, meaning that they probably have no idea what they're doing. I would recommend talking to them first. So I had a boss. I know we're almost at 5 o'clock, but I'm going to tell his story. There was a guy in the company I used to work at a long time ago who was a bit of an a-hole. And, and my boss always said, well, he said, go talk to him. Go talk to him about the problems that you have. Because once you talk to him and he's still acting as an a-hole, then you know that he's an a-hole. And if he changes his behavior, then you know he didn't do it on purpose, and now he knows, and he's going to change his behavior, okay? So the realtors are the same thing, and I'm not picking on realtors, anybody who's flying their drone. So when I see somebody doing something stupid with a drone, I usually just go and talk to them very casually, like I know nothing. So there was somebody recently flying over a bike race that we had in town. And I went to them and I say, hey, how difficult was it to get that approval to fly over people? And they looked at me like I had two heads. And I said, yeah, you actually need to get approval. And then they get two options here. They can either be like, oh yeah, shit, I didn't know. Now I'm going to go and do it. Or they can be like, well, I don't give a crap. And then you know where they stand. So if they're giving you the I don't give a crap and I know where I stand and I know that I'm doing this illegally, then you probably have grounds to report them. If they're saying I had no idea and now they get educated, then it's a win for you. You educated someone. So that's how I would approach it. Okay. Sorry, I just saw a question in the chat and I'm like, what's going on? I first did the trust and have been 107 for 2 years. Where do we find a copy of the organizational guidelines if we fly under trust so I can print them? There's, you're talking about CBOs, community-based organizations. There's 3 of them. I would recommend visiting the Flight Test Community Association, FTCA.org, or the FPV Freedom Coalition, and look at their guidelines. They're available on their website. That's where you would find them. That's the short answers. Waivers for pilots or companies, both. Waivers are going to be submitted by a person at a company, and that person is going to be the point of contact for that waiver. So Jason, for example, in our office, he's the one that submits the waiver, and so his name is on the waiver for the company, and the company name is on there. So when we fly, Jason is there to be the person in charge of the waiver. Is BV loss covered under a COA, or is there a separate waiver? So COA, Certificate of Authorization, I'm guessing you're talking about public safety. You can fly beyond visual line of sight under a specific waiver, tactical BV loss waiver, tactical beyond visual line of sight waiver. That's what you would want to do as under a COA. Okay, one more question. If you live near an international border, Canada or Mexico, and you're compliant with both country laws, can you cross the border with no issues? No, you cannot. Crossing the border means you're crossing what's called the ADIZ, which is the Air Defense Identification Zone, and they're going to be really interested in what you want to do by crossing the border with your drone. I would be very careful, especially with the border with Mexico. It's kind of hot right now, not because of the sun. And there's a lot of law enforcement agencies that are patrolling the area, including with drones. I would definitely not fly over the Mexican border with a drone. Canadian folks might be more friendly, but I still wouldn't do it. As soon as you enter via the airspace into the country, you have to go through customs. If you've ever flown internationally, the reason you have to go through customs on point of entry is for that specific reason. So custom is going to be very interested in knowing what you do. Obviously, there are reasons behind all this contraband, bringing illegal equipment into the country. There's a lot of implications. So I would not. Definitely not. But if you do, please take videos and send them to us, because I'm really interested in knowing. Why did you bring the phone? Oh, what is? Oh, that's the photo right here. You see?
That is the winning photo.
Oh yeah, Rodney Wells. Rodney Wells is the one that won the photo.
It's broadcasting live.
Can you find a smaller phone?
It's perfect. It's great.
Can you read? Rodney, that's the winning photo for the contest. Thank you for bringing it up. And we will have another one. We'll have another contest. Sorry, I'm brain farting. We'll have another contest starting very soon. Jillian from the community is going to be putting all the details in the community. So if you're not in the community, all it takes is being enrolled in one of our courses, and you can go to community.pilotinstitute.com. We have some cool stuff coming up this week. It's already been a long day, as you can tell. I'm fried, completely fried. But we've got our quizzing platform, QuizBank, is getting fully implemented. We've been doing quite a bit of testing in the last couple of months on the Part 107 side. The final exam was not ready yet. It is ready now, so if you're in the Part 107 course and you want to take the final exam, you don't have to do it on the old platform. You can now do it on the new platform. We'll have those quizzes available in the private pilot course, instrument, and the commercial course by the end of the week as well. And then we've got another course coming up with search and rescue, which is really exciting. We have another course coming up with radio communication for those of you that are in the airplane course. So we got some cool stuff. We also got full approval on the building, so it looks like it's pretty much official now that we will be moving at one point, probably sometime in October, it looks like. We will have, I think, more footage before then. We'll probably be giving you a quick glimpse. We should do a live from there one day when it's all still like bad.
We still have to show footage from this place.
And we still have to show footage of this place, which was going to happen on Friday. But man, I got so sick on Thursday night. I was a zombie on Friday. So we'll do this on Friday during the live on the community. So if you want to see this place, if you haven't seen it before, we'll be giving you a quick tour of this place before we move. But yeah, it looks like it's official. We'll be moving now, probably getting the keys next week to the new building. So I'm excited. I think the team is excited, except Ben, but everybody else is pretty pumped.
That's some bullshit.
And yeah, we've got some cool videos that we posted lately as well. I know I'm going late now, but
Video.
yeah, we have a mapping video, and we have a flying over people video where we explain a bit more about the process. It's been very popular, getting a lot of comments and a lot of views. So that's it. I'm going to stop talking, and we will see you all on Friday morning for news update, and then the Friday afternoon for a happy hour live. Yes.
Lastly, we are super close to 100K.
And we're very close.
Subscribe.
We're very close to 100K. So if you're still watching, I don't know how many people are here, 195. If you're still watching and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I hate to do this, but it does help us to have obviously the numbers. We've never really been after the numbers. It is a good reward for the work that we put into the channel, but it does help us with getting more content to you guys and more people watching us. It does help the algorithm. So if you want to hit that subscribe button, we'll be happy about that. And if not, we'll see you next time.
Once we hit 100K, dinner's on Greg.
Peace.